difference between being just a conservative or a Republican.
Exactly. It's a huge difference today, being a conservative and being a Republican. Mitt Romney was one of those individuals who is a Republican, but Mitt Romney voted for conviction of the President of the United States on the charge of abuse of power against Congress. I want to get your thoughts regarding that. Do you believe that there is such a thing as an abuse of power against Congress when a president uses executive power? And then secondly, do you favor Mitt Romney and his decision today because it was made on his conscience? It wasn't made on any other fact.
First of all, as far as the abuse of power is concerned, executive privilege has been used. It was used by George Washington. And so as far as abuse of Congress, because he wouldn't let some of his people that he hold privilege over their conversations, to say that is an abuse of power to not let them testify to Congress is just ridiculous. And what was your second question? I'm sorry?
Well, do you believe that Mitt Romney made the right decision in terms of voting for the conviction of the President of the United States because he based it on his conscience decision, not on any facts that were presented or not presented?
Well, you're not supposed to make decisions in any trial on your conscience. You're supposed to make it on the evidence.
Yeah.
And prior to this, Mitt Romney made a very big deal about he couldn't make a proper decision without having more witnesses. That's why he voted to have witnesses. And then all of a sudden he turned around and said, well, I guess enough is enough. I'm just going to vote my conscience. And I think that was a very ridiculous decision.
Exactly. Now, you were not in favor of Adam Schiff's presentation of the hearsay and gossip that was presented as truth and fact of abuse of power by the president. What difference does it make having a conservative body in the office of Congress right now when it comes to dealing with the issues of justice and especially dealing with the president?
Well, I think having the Freedom Caucus in the House, having people like Jeff Jordan and Devin Nunes, I think they did a lot to bring out the lies of Adam Schiff. They called him to the carpet every possible chance they could get, and I think that made a very big difference in public opinion, because Adam Schiff had the propensity to go out there, and as you know, he made up an entire phone call between the president of Ukraine and Donald Trump and presented it as fact, and he got called to the carpet for it. And if we didn't have people like the people in the Freedom Caucus in Washington, and if we had more just rhinos out there and people that just are, consider themselves Republicans and Republicans in name only, he could have got away with that. And have the Freedom Caucus out there, it doesn't allow people to get away with that, and the truth can come out.
Exactly. Now, in terms of Iowa, do Iowans care about impeachment? Did they even worry about that? Was that on the top agenda for those in Iowa?
No, absolutely not.
What's the biggest concern for the average Iowan?
I think the biggest concern for a long time was trade. Iowa's a large agricultural state, and a lot of our income depends on trade with other countries. And I don't think the Iowa farmer realized how much we were being taken advantage of by countries like China and Canada and Mexico. I mean, Canada and Mexico are our two biggest trading partners, and they were taking advantage of the American farmer. And Donald Trump finally enlightened them on that, and it it helped them get over their. They were very skeptical at first about the trade deals because they didn't understand them. And thanks to Donald Trump, he explained all of them. They understood what was going on, and then they stood behind him and gave him support. And now we have new trade deals with several countries, and it looks like we're going to start something here with England pretty soon.
Exactly. Now, for the Iowan agriculturalist, the farmer, are they hateful of the president that he put their lives or their livelihood at risk with using tariffs to force China and the other nations in Europe to come to the table?
They were at first, but then again, like Donald Trump explained, what he did was when he put the tariffs on China, the extra money that was coming in from those tariffs, he took part of that and gave it to the Iowa farmers in order to help them get past this. And hopefully with the new trade agreements that we have in place, eventually we can hopefully eliminate all the subsidies from farming and every other industry.
Exactly. Now, you pridefully wear a hat that says Trump 2020. Do you receive any grief for that?
You see the pictures.
Yes. Do you take any grief for that from your Republican brethren?
Well, I live in way up in the northeast corner of Iowa, in a town called Decorah. It's a very liberal college town, and I took a lot of grief when I first started wearing that hat. I run my refrigeration business here. We run a beef business here, and they both suffered right after the election because I wore that. I've been wearing one now for almost 4 years, and we took a lot of grief to begin with, but I get a lot of smiles now and a lot of thumbs up and a lot of I like that hat. So things have definitely changed.
Now, in terms of the hat, so we're going to stick with that for just a moment. And you are in a liberal setting. Are you getting a lot of socialist Democrats who are beginning to say, you know what? I think you got the right idea. I'm going to hang with you.
Well, we just had the caucuses here, and we had, in our county here, we had approximately, a little over 200 people show up for our caucus, and just about 20% of those were new registered Republicans, and there was just a handful of Democrats that were in there that said, enough is enough, and the party has moved way too far left, and I'm going to join you guys now.
Yeah, speaking of the caucus, wow, what a debacle.
Well, for the Democrats, yeah, it was a debacle. The Republicans went off just fine.
Exactly. See, but they don't report that on CNBC or MSNBC. What they're saying is that Iowa completely bombed on this, and as a result, that you all might lose your position as the first state in the electoral process. Are you in agreement with that type of thinking? Do you believe that the Democrats have screwed it up for all of Iowa, especially for the Republicans? Your thoughts regarding the debacle?
Well, I've always said Iowa's a great place to start because it's a small state. The candidates can travel all around it. We have large cities. We have urban areas. We have rural areas. We have areas where you will see a soul for quite a distance. And even though that the large part of our population is white, we still have those areas where the minorities are congregated, and it makes it possible to go and shake everybody's hand in the state.
Yep.
Very cheaply, and that's a big thing. The advertising is fairly cheap here. Getting around is fairly cheap. Meeting people is fairly cheap. And with the debacle, if you're going to screw screw up in a small state like Iowa than doing it in New York and California, I guess that's about the only good thing you can say about what happened.
Do you believe that as a Republican that the Democrats need to be held accountable for what they did in Iowa? Because like you said, it only happened with the Democrats who were trying to cheat their way out of Bernie winning the race.
Yeah, well, it was back in the 2012 race when we had Mitt Romney running for president, and the Republicans had the screw up back then, where we had a difference of, I think it was 20 vote difference that we had to switch the day after the election.
Yeah.
And that changed the winner of the election. And the person that was running on the Republican side resigned. And so I think it would be only appropriate that whoever was running the Democratic caucus this time, he or she needs to go.
Mr. Hansen, tonight on this particular program, we will be announcing that there are concerns of a conspiracy that Joe Biden, former Vice President of the United States, and as well the mayor of Indianapolis, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg, were... Yeah, no, Buttigieg. I don't know. Pete. All I know is Pete. But apparently they were involved in Shadow, which had the control over the app that collected the actual data and presented the data for the race. And it was Pete who jumped out front first and said, "I am victorious." Are you all getting any inklings or ranklings that maybe there's something going on, a corrupt thing that's going on amongst the Democrats in Iowa at this point?
It wouldn't surprise me. After what happened between Hillary and Bernie last time, nothing would surprise me right now. And with the Democrats, their power lies on either coast, and I think they would just as well see the flyover country disappear. So I wouldn't put anything past them at this point.
Thomas Hansen with us tonight. Hansen for Congress, Iowa Congressional District 1. You can find him at Hansen for Congress. Mr. Hansen, got to ask you some questions regarding illegal immigration. Actually, it's no such thing as illegal immigration. It's illegal migration. How does that impact Iowa? Because under the Obama administration, I believe they were airdropping illegals into your state. How is that working today?
Yeah, we had a problem with that. We're very short of help out here, especially around the farms, and so there was a very big incentive for immigrants, illegal immigrants, to come here to Iowa and work. And I think that we didn't do enough enforcement at the time with checking some of these people out, and we've had a couple of incidents out here where we've had people murdered by illegal immigrants. And I know murders happen all the time, but these are ones that could be prevented if we had done a better job screening the people that were coming into Iowa. So it is a problem that needs to be addressed.
Do you believe that, as the president stated last night, that if you come into our country, then you should come in with the well-being that you can take care of yourself, and that you should not receive either welfare or Medicaid or other public subsidy? What are your thoughts regarding that?
Well, I really want to see somebody that's mad about that. Talk to somebody who came here legally, because those are all the requirements that they have to meet in order to come here legally. They have to show that they can support themselves. They have to show that they're not going to be on public assistance. They have to show that they have a job, a certain amount of money in the bank. And so that is the requirements for anybody else that comes here, and we should have that across the board.
Exactly. I have to also ask you about the budget. It seems that the budget has accelerated. There's nothing like getting a whole lot of money in the Treasury to encourage people to spend it. What are your thoughts regarding the U.S. budget? How would you impact the Freedom Caucus in terms of moving forward with a budget and appropriations for the U.S.?
Well, I've already made it known. One of my big things that I've done that was very important to me when I first started to run. I was always taught that you never start anything or never criticize anybody else's idea without having plans of your own. And so the first thing I did was lay out everything that I wanted to do and how I wanted to do that, and put that on the Hansen for Congress website. And with the budget, the thing that I've already put out there is I will accept nothing less than a budget freeze right now.
Woo!
And I'm a big proponent of the Tea Party Patriots plan, of the penny plan. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yes.
But that's where we freeze the budget at current levels, and then every year for the next 10 years, we reduce spending by 1 penny on the dollar. And I think that's very doable. I'd like to see us do more than that. I know President Trump proposed a 5% cut right away. That didn't go over too well, but I think if we could do it a penny at a time, it would be a tremendous help to getting control of the budget and reducing the deficit.
Now, right now, there is no Democrat that has signed on to run in Congressional District 1 that we're aware of at this time period. So there's only 3 persons running at this point. They're all Republicans. It's you, Ashley Hansen, and Darren White. What makes you better than the other 2?
Well, just to correct you first,
Okay.
Abby Finkenauer is our current congresswoman, and she is a Democrat.
Okay.
So she is running for office.
Okay.
The thing that separates me from my Republican primary opponents is just what I stated. I have actual plans that I put out there. They're black and white. You can go and you can read them. My other 2 opponents are typical politicians. They say that solving a problem is easy and they'll work to fix it, but they don't give you any idea about how they're going to do it. And that gives you a lot of wiggle room, especially with supporting the president. I've made it very clear my policies are in line with the president. Things like the Second Amendment, I love to write. I've got 23 years of writing supporting the Second Amendment.
Yep.
So I'm solidly in the president's corner. And when you don't have plans, I've constantly stated that having plans shows people that you understand the problem, that you're smart enough to fix it, and that you are a leader and not one of the sheep. And that's a big difference between me and my other 2 Republican opponents.
Mr. Hansen, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. We look forward to you coming back in the next month. When is your primary, sir?
My primary is the 2nd of June.
The 2nd of June. So you'll be back. We'll talk with you about more issues coming up along the way. How can people support you? How can people help you get across the finish line? Because you already have the wind against you by the Democrats, and there are many Republicans that say that a conservative shouldn't be the winner. What can people do to help you, sir?
Just go to my website, hansenforcongress.com, and it's got all the information on there. You can read up on who I am and what I stand for, and it'll give you a variety of ways to support me.
There you go. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, sir, and we look forward to your return to our program. This segment of the Exceptional Conservative Show has been recorded. It will be put on our YouTube channel for TECN TV and the Exceptional Conservative Network. We want you to subscribe to us so that you get the information right off the bat. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, great conversation with Thomas Hansen. We're going to talk about what happened in Iowa and that there might be a corruption conspiracy as to why all of a sudden it took 4 days to figure out who was going to win Iowa. We'll be right back with more of the best in urban conservative talk. You are listening and watching TECN TV, the best in urban conservative news and talk. You can find us at TheExceptionalConservative Show.com.